I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
I'm not even supposed to be here today! Oh, fuck you!
Come on, you want me to drive? You're supposed to be suicidal. Remember, I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fuck me in the ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new movie review. This review is going to be for 2007's The Kingdom, directed by Peter Berg. This was a film that released in 2007, and it disappeared from memory quickly because it just people just didn't really care for it that much. But what is the plot of The Kingdom? Well, after a terrorist attack on an American housing compound in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, where families and Agent Francis Manor are murdered, FBI agent Ronald Fleury blackmails a Saudi Arabian consult to get 5 days of investigation in the location. He travels with who's Jamie Foxx's character. He travels with Grant Sykes, Janet Mize, and Adam Levy to avenge their friend and try to find those responsible for the bombing. Agents find all sorts of difficulties in their investigation, but they're supported by Colonel Faris Al-Ghazi, who advises the team how to act in a hostile environment. So, as for my reaction to the film, I honestly find The Kingdom, to me, probably a very underrated action film in 2007. Like, when this came out, it got mediocre reactions from critics, and it did not do good at the box office at all, so it disappeared from the world after it left theaters. But, you know, I kind of think this movie deserves better attention. And honestly, especially in the world we have today, this movie is kind of becoming a lot more relevant now, in my eyes, and that's hence why if this was made today, it probably would get a lot more attention. Like, before we had films like Civil War from Alex Garland, and we also are now having Warfare that's also going to be a review, but they're both films from A24. We pretty much had this for those movies in the 2000s. So how was The Kingdom made? Well, prior to filming, the director, Peter Berg, who I actually do decently enjoy as a filmmaker, he spent 2 weeks in Arabia researching the film. Then filming began in July 2006 on the west side of the county courthouse in Phoenix, Arizona. And scenes were being filmed concurrently in Mesa, Arizona, and the scenes at the American compound were shot at the campus and as Arizona State University. And some of the trailer frames, Sargadi Kakti, to Saudi Arabia are also seen in the background. The scenes in the men's locker room at the beginning of the film are definitely filmed in the men's locker room, the detention area of the Gilbert Police Department, and then the FBI briefing scene was filmed in a media amphitheater classroom in the same police building. During the high-speed driving scenes, those got filmed on Loop 202, and they run through Mesa and Gilbert, and prior to the opening for public, which was used only a few miles from the SU campus. And while shooting on location in Mesa, Berg sadly got involved in an accident that resulted in one crew member's death. And the SUV he was riding collided with this Gator uttering vehicle driven by Nick Papak, and Papak died 3 hours later. Then Papak's parents, Michael and Michelle, they filed a lawsuit against the director, driver, and production company, but it dropped in 2008, and then filming resumed 1 day after the incident. So, after The Kingdom was officially shot and completed, the movie would go on to premiere at the Edinburgh International Film Festival, and then would be theatrically released to the public in the United States on September 28, 2007. And when it released, it got mixed reviews, but it also did trigger some controversy on some other nations. But yeah, I think the film is honestly underrated. I think it's pretty well shot and pretty well directed, and I think there are some intense action sequences right there, and I think the cast do a pretty stellar job. And you surprisingly, for a while, Jason Bain was a comedic actor, and this was one of the first serious roles he played. Because yeah, he actually does play in this film as actually one of the companions that allies with Fox and Gardner in this film. Like, if there's one flaw I will admit first that plagues Peter Berg's movie, it tries to be a bunch of things. Like, right there, like, either it tries to be this political thriller or then become an action film. It doesn't know what it really kind of wants to be. Right there, but I mean, it doesn't ruin the film, though, but it doesn't know what it really wants to be, though. It should have just decided at the outside, just make the movie either a political thriller or an action thriller. Or gone with one or the other. So, the script from Matthew Michael Carnahan, it starts out hitting all the right action beats as it unfolds with the terrorist attack on the Saudi compound, as the employees of an oil company. And there, a movie almost like does threaten to almost get bogged down as it shifts to focus on the whole machinations that hinder and enable it to join in the FBI investigation in the film. And then, though, however, Peter Berg does pull out the film out of this whole quagmire area, and then pretty much breaks on the movie almost as surely as the political attempts to nix the joint investigation, but the movie does still pick up, and of course, eventually the political stuff gets out of the way, and then the kingdom gets down to the meat of the script, and you get to the Saudi investigation to high gear, and it doesn't take its foot off the accelerator, and it becomes a wild ride after that. So, how do we start the kingdom? Well, we start off with this creative opening title sequence that show a bunch of tragic events that are unfolding in the area this is set. And so, Al-Qaeda terrorists in Saudi Arabia, they detonate this explosive at an American oil company housing compound, and it kills both American and Saudi citizens. And before this, though, some terrorists disguised as Saudi state police, they shoot the inhabitants in the compound before they're stopped by Sergeant Hathman of the Saudi state police. Then another terrorist then commits a suicide bombing. So, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and its legal attaché, Francis Manor, in Saudi Arabia, alerts his colleague, which is Jamie Foxx's character, Special Agent Ronald Fleury, to the attacks before being killed by a second bomb. And honestly, I actually do like Jamie Foxx as an actor. I liked him in films like Ray. I liked him in Django Unchained. I liked him in the Pixar film Soul. I do enjoy him as an actor. Then we get to Fleury at the FBI headquarters in Washington, where he's at this whole Parents' Day at his kid's school, where he gets the alert, and then he briefs his rapid deployment team on the attack, believing it got orchestrated by the Saudi terrorist named Abu Hamza. So he recruits his examiner Janet Mays, Jennifer Garner's character, intelligence analysis Adam Leavitt, and bomb technician Grant Sykes to his team. And although the U.S. Justice Department and the U.S. State Department hinder FBI efforts to investigate, Fleury then blackmails the Saudi ambassador into allowing his team into ride. So, pretty much you know that's where our story kind of kicks off. The audience gets treated to a top-notch story, despite some of the whole stuff I've earlier mentioned. That does touch on everything from culture classes or revelations or kidnapping or doctrine or self-perpetuation of hate. And it culminates in a final half-hour riveting, vicious, blood-splattering action. An introduction that outlines the history with Arabia and the United States, and it just proves, like, no matter how intense the action the movie gets, the movie itself is a pretty level-headed look at the situation around the time this movie had come out. You get drawn to the action from the very beginning, and it does not sink into an FBI team shooting up Saudis, and there's actually an investigation. They actually investigate the whole cause, they plan out their journey, and then, of course, our journey really kicks off. Like, the shooting doesn't really happen until, like, the middle of the film. You still do get the political interest in the background all the while. And here, with this movie, you kind of do need you kind of actually do need the political stuff in the film. Knowing what the film is about. So it actually makes sense for the political stuff to be in this. Like, the movie is still exciting and informative and moving, and like it has enough action to keep your heart pumping and a great story. Like, it definitely shows you how life is in Arabia. And the characters actually really do feel real, and the struggle to get to the truth is definitely real. The kingdom does have a great cast, like Jamie Foxx, like Jason Bateman, Jeremy Piven, Danny Houston, Richard Jenkins. And yeah, like, it was definitely surprising to see Jason Bateman in a role like this. Like, this is one of the first serious roles he did. The guy's usually known for a lot of comedic stuff. Like, before this film came out, he was in the show Arrested Development, and ever since this film, he's done some other great stuff. Like, he was voiced Nick Wilde in Zootopia. He was The Rock's rival in Central Intelligence. Was the FBI agent in Paul. Stuff out, like, and I also do enjoy him as well. Right there, like, I think the one weakest star of the film is probably Garner, but I'll get to that stuff later. Let's get back to the review. And one here, and when the title of this film does seem weird because it's called The Kingdom. When you hear this title, you think The Kingdom would be maybe some medieval fantasy movie, but because it's called The Kingdom, and kingdoms were a thing in the medieval times. No. The kingdom they're talking about is a terrorist kingdom. A terrorist kingdom of criminals and bombers. And it talks about Arabia because it's a monarchy area. And it does really evaluate the other world's relationship with the Arab world. Now there's more than meets the eye. So, once the team arrives in Saudi Arabia, they get met by Colonel Fariz Al-Ghazi, the commander of the state police force that provides security at the compound, and Al-Bin Malik of the Saudi Arabian National Guard. And so the general's inexperience in criminal investigation really hinders Fleury's team. And so the team then gets invited to the palace of the Saudi prince Ahmed bin Khalid, and Fleury convinces the prince that Colonel Al-Ghazi is a better fit to lead the investigation. So the change in leadership, the whole team gets allowed direct access to the crime scene, and Fleury is able to sympathize with and befriend Al-Ghazi. And yeah, Al-Ghazi's also a pretty great character right here. I like how this guy's how much great help this guy is, and I like his chemistry he has with the team, and like hell. The movie also does have some light moments of humor with Jason Bateman's character. Right there. In a few rare scenes. So while they're searching for evidence, Huffman and Sykes discover the second bomb was detonated in an ambulance, and the brother of one of the dead terrorists had access to ambulances and police uniforms. So Al-Ghazi orders a raid by the Saudi emergency force on a terrorist stronghold, and several of them are thus killed as a result. And the story is starting to take an even darker turn from here, and like, it's well known that the kingdom does take itself very seriously, and it seems clear what the intentions are. When it pays that the action scenes are really definitely priority and not overly dependent on dialogue, and the violence demonstrated is definitely the kind of violence you'd see in if this was a news story, and an impact that's as realistic as it really becomes, as they really do well in trying to make it very realistic, and the politics stuff that does get displayed in the movie actually does work very well, especially when the FBI sends Agent Fleury and his team to track down the bombers. Working with the Saudi, it seems to take their roles professionally well. Like, there's not one single bit where the team is arguing with one another. Like, they're not acting like douchebags, or they actually feel like real people you're following in this whole entire movie. Like, I actually like that they actually make these guys actually feel like realistic, and they're not just movie characters. On the conflicts in the film, they come from not only taking down these terrorists, at the same time, they're dealing with the structuring of the government in that country. And to add more to the realism, there's this conflict between themselves with personal issues within themselves. And of course, when you have the pressures with our main characters, it adds more to their dramatic tensions that make each and every character believable, even though they're fearless. Like, they know this mission is probably going to cost them their lives. They're actually being pulled into this whole warlike mission right here to take down this terrorist. And like, Jamie Foxx does really provide does perfectly well in playing this authoritative figure in the screen. It literally lights up every scene he's in. And the one time his confident character meanders is when he's pretty much thinking about his son back at home. And the tensions are really needed, knowing the grave dangers each of these squad members are up against. Like, you can see, like, Fox is wondering, off this mission, is he going to see his son again after this? Like, you can tell from when the scenes they have together in the beginning, you can see that him and his son are clearly close. Like, you first see him at his son's class at a parents' day there. And he, like, asks all the students there if he wants to hear hear the story about this other cop work he did, and all the kids are saying yes, and like, yeah, so this guy's definitely a really, like, this guy's a pretty likable character. Like, you can tell that this guy really does care about his son, and actually clearly, you can clearly see in his face he's wondering if he's gonna be able to get back home to his son. Clearly, the more conflicted their lives are, the more the characters really start to evolve. Like, there's even like, and what makes these characters even more realistic is that, like, when they see this one Saudi boy, and they actually do nurture him, and so yeah, they're actually good with actually good. So yeah, they actually are helpful with the good residents of the area, and residents of the area. Like, one scene where Gar's character sees this terrified kid, and she immediately sees his fire, and then actually gives that kid a lollipop, and the girl's mother actually allows the girl to take it because she knows it'll calm the girl down with everything she's seen. So these are actually good characters right here. Like, they're definitely a very likable team. The action scenes, like, as exciting as they are definitely raw and focused, and the camera work is pretty controlled as it falls victim, unfortunately, to the handheld shaky cam. That is definitely one of my bad qualities with the film. And like, there was a bit of a revenge portion of the story. And when I came to what I was more invested in, I feel like I was more invested in the characters of Fleury and Al Ghazi. I feel like they were the best characters of the movie. And of course, like, of the FBI investigation team, I honestly think those two characters were the best. And honestly, I like them a little more than kind of the revenge stuff. Like, the shootouts, they're not like superficial and they're not over the top. Like, the SWAT team, they're very likable. They don't harass any civilians. Like, they're not being obnoxious douchebags, or they're not saying cheesy one-liners like you get in a lot of movies today. Like, they actually know how realistic a movie like this should be. And this movie does well in actually being very realistic. Right there. So, afterwards, clues get discovered by Fleury and his team, and they see photos of the U.S. and our Western embassies in Riyadh, and so U.S. Embassy Deputy Chief, named Damon Schmidt, he immediately calls Fleury and his team and tells them that they have to return to the United States, but just as they're about to return to the United States, the convoy gets attacked and Levi gets kidnapped, so Al Ghazi commanders a civilian vehicle to go rescue Levi, and a team chases the car holding Levi into the dangerous Al-Swati neighborhood. So once they pull up to that neighborhood, this gunman fires rocket-propelled grenades at them, and a fierce firefight starts, which is kind of what you get with this cover right here. The hostage Levi gets carried to a room inside this complex, and terrorists are about to have him executed before Mice, who gets separated from Al Ghazi and Fleury, saves him just in time. Like, yeah, like, this is definitely an action movie that does have some disturbing moments, like when you have the initial terrorist attack or the killing. That definitely does well in actually showing how heartless terrorists can be. And these scenes are actually pretty disturbing to watch. Like, there's even one short scene that actually has teenagers using nails or marbles or screws to build bombs for the suicide bombers' jackets, and like, there's this, like, that's a pretty mortifying, disturbing small little moment. It shows like the people who carry out these attacks are definitely convinced that they actually think they're doing good deeds when they really don't, and so it definitely feels like a pretty disturbing moment. And the story I enjoy because it's definitely a realistic story, and like, the script gives the performers believable little exchanges, and the actors really live up to the demands. It has some good photography, and it's definitely a thrilling plot. It's like, right there, and like, they don't try to go all Ari, where the villains get killed in gross ways, but they stick to the whole guns, and they don't right there. And so once these guys get tracked down, like, and they get killed, and it's done in a little more realistic fashion. Right there. And so, like, the team does survive all sorts of tribulations, but they don't have like superhuman heroics. They survive because they have a amount of skill and they have a lot of luck. One of them, though, does die, sadly, which I'm about to get to very soon. And then, of course, in one scene, when they have a convoy moving down a freeway, an SUV rear ends this Mercedes and explodes. And so, you get a car crash that has cannon rolls, T-bones, and prawn thicks, and it really does well in keeping the viewer glued to the screen. So, now we get on with the finale, where just as they've rescued Levi, Al-Ghazi and his team start to leave, and Florey notices a trail of blood leading to the back of the apartment, and there's this family that's living there. And Al-Ghazi, after this, realizes the grandfather is actually Abu Hamza. And his teenage grandson walks out of the bedroom, and to get revenge for his grandfather's death, he shoots Al-Ghazi in the neck, and then points his gun at Mize, which prompts Florey to kill him, and Hoffman to kill Abu Hamza. And just like that, Al-Ghazi then dies in Florey's arms. And Abu Hamza whispers something to his other grandchild. And like that, Abu is dead, his teenage son is dead, and now his other grandchild has to carry on his legacy. So, the mission is complete, the mission is over. And Florey and Hoffman go to Al-Ghazi's house and they meet and comfort his family and inform of his death. And Florey and his team return to the U.S., where the FBI director, Chris Cooper's character, commends them and congratulates them for their work. But like you see on Levi, Mize, and Florey's faces, like they're not celebrating any of this. They've lost Al-Ghazi. Al-Ghazi died in front of them. And like they're just shell-shocked. They're all shell-shocked from this whole dangerous mission they got pulled on that almost costed them their lives. So they're definitely not going to be celebrating their success. And plus, they also had to witness a teenage kid die in front of them. Right there. So they actually look more depressed than relieved. It actually kind of shows the horror of them. Kind of shows the horrors of like wars like this. And he asks Florey what he whispered to, and Levi asks Florey what he whispered to Mize, and oh yeah, Levi also, especially because this guy got captured and almost got killed by terrorists. Right there, I told Al-Ghazi saved him. So he definitely looks the most he honestly kind of seems a little more the most traumatized of the three. So he asks Florey what he whispered to Mize in the film to get her to stop crying over Manor. And pretty much like the scenes take place at the same time where Hamza's grandson is now carrying on his grandfather's legacy. And like both him and Florey respond like, we were going to kill them all. And like the last shot you see is just Florey just walking out of his office in despair. Clearly in despair, likely just to go home, see his son. There's really nothing else for him to do at this point. So, the mission's over. Might as well just go back home. Really, they just did their work. It's done, and so it's not really a victorious ending either, because Hamza's legacy is being carried on by his grandson. His grandson's going to continue his grandfather's work. And stuff like, his grandfather may be dead, but his plans are likely still going to go through. So, in a way, it's kind of where the villain does die, but it doesn't end happy. It does end on somewhat a bit of a downer note. Like, yeah, Hamza and his cell are all killed, but Ferris has been killed, and Hamza's grandson's going to continue his grandfather's violence and deadly plans. Right there, and just reflecting on his grandfather's last words. But also kind of remembering Mize giving him a lollipop to calm down. And just looking over the save, like, you can see even his grandson has a confused expression, and now looks kind of and even does have a bit of confliction it seems like a little more conflicted being on this path, like, or whether he'll probably go through his grandfather's footsteps, or whether he will just abandon his grandfather's evil plans. Right there, or whether he should even go through either. Right there, so you can see he seems a little either confused whether he should, and or whether he shouldn't. Like, anyway, so I do like his facial expressions right here when he says that. Right there. So in a way, like, it doesn't end happy for anybody. Just about nobody, pretty much in the end, nobody really got their happy ending. Yeah, like, the team completed their mission, but they lost a member. This mission almost cost them their lives multiple times. They're just shell-shocked at this point. And what I do love, and I also do love the finale score that plays in the background by Danny Elfman. That's a score I always love listening to whenever I go for evening walks in the neighborhood, or whether I'm on my way home from somewhere. Right there, that's definitely one of the best scores of film. Right there, and it's a score that I got introduced to that score in the scene from Rango from the heroic BSOD, where after the lie revealed moment happened and Rango was walking on the road there, and he had that narration from Rango, like the narration Johnny Depp delivers, "Who am I? I'm nobody." And when Rango attempted suicide on the road, like that. That's why I couldn't find that score anywhere, because it was already from this movie. They borrowed some of the score, but I feel like reusing some of the score actually worked for that scene. Like, if they trying to recreate their own score wouldn't really work all that well. So I'm glad they actually borrowed some of it from the finale score of this. But that's one of my favorite pieces from Danny Elfman. Right there. And it honestly sets the mood of the scene well, where because they're somewhat victorious, but it's not a very happy ending. Right there, so it actually is a perfect score. Now, would I have any bad qualities with The Kingdom? I would probably say the camera work in The Kingdom is kind of a bit too shaky and kind of all over the place, to the point where it's kind of hard to tell what's going on in some action scenes. Like, obviously the point was, I guess Peter Berg's point was probably just to show and not tell, but I kind of wish there were some action scenes where I just wish the camera would stay still and didn't go all over the place, because that was kind of a bit annoying, and it kind of sounds more like a heavy-weighted drama at times. Like, it is kind of that, like, it's not really an action movie until, like, the whole middle half and the finales, where they encounter the village, and then the film becomes full-on action. Like, it's with these scenes that Berg truly shows his props as a filmmaker. And now more on Garner's character, Janet. I kind of feel Garner was just kind of miscasted for the character in my eyes, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like her character just really didn't interest me that much. There wasn't much interesting just about her character. I just feel she was miscasted for the role too, in a way. But other than those, though, I think The Kingdom is very underrated. So in the end, I would definitely watch and buy The Kingdom for your collection, because it's probably one of Berg's most underrated films yet, and one of the most underrated action films of the 2000s. Before Civil War and Warfare from Alex Garland, we pretty much had this. Anyways, guys, that's it for my review of The Kingdom. If we're how to rank The Kingdom, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you are a fan of Peter Berg and realistic action films, totally watch or buy The Kingdom for your collection, no doubt. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank The Kingdom, I'm going to give The Kingdom an 8 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That wraps up my review for The Kingdom. Now, I want to know in the comments down below what you guys thought about The Kingdom, whether you love this movie, whether you hated this movie, or do you also think it's underrated? And until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.